Police are looking for a man believed to have jumped into the River Thames as a serious incident was declared on Westminster Bridge, in London. Witnesses are reporting that a lot of emergency vehicles are on the scene on the central London Bridge. Footage has been shared of social media and shows both police and fire engines in attendance. Lifeboats and a helicopter have also surrounded the bridge according to reports. The Metropolitan Police said they were called to reports of a man with a cut hand and another man had jumped into the River Thames. The force tweeted, "Police were called to Westminster Bridge at 7:52 p.m. to reports of a man with a cut hand." It was also reported that a man had jumped into the River Thames from Westminster Bridge. A search is ongoing to locate this man. The incident is not being treated as terror-related. London Fire Brigade tweeted they are assisting the police with the incident. They wrote, "Firefighters are assisting police at the incident on Westminster Bridge. A systematic search of the river is being carried out due to reports of a person in the water." Photos shared on social media shows the bridge swarming with police vehicles. One person tweeted, "Just coming back to Westminster Bridge via boat. Blue lights everywhere." Another person wrote, "What happened on Westminster Bridge? Does anybody know?" Someone else said, "Just walked out of a restaurant by London Eye to a ridiculously heavy police, fire, ambulance presence on and around Westminster Bridge and on the Thames. Something bad appears to have happened. Hoping nothing serious. Westminster Bridge." Another person said there are about 7 fire engines and 8 police cars, a police boat and 2 lifeboats as well as a helicopter. They tweeted, "Something is going down on Westminster Bridge. There are 7 fire engines, 8 police cars, police boat, 2 lifeboats and a helicopter. Quite crazy to see and thankfully I was far away from it on Jubilee Bridge. Praying no one is seriously hurt." This latest incident occurred in the same spot where the 2017 Westminster Bridge attacks took place. Back in 2017, Khalid Masood ploughed a 4x4 into crowds before he was shot outside Parliament. 6 people died in the attack, including a policeman and the attacker. Dozens more were injured. Masood was shot by police but later died in St Mary's Hospital in Paddington. Andrew R.T. Davies raged at the decision to oust farmers from a property they have worked on for generations to build a new business centre. Welsh Conservative leader Andrew R.T. Davies insisted he was supporting the campaign against Legal and General, who owns the land, of kicking the farmers off their land to build a business park. The company now has planning permission to oust the Jenkin family off the land after they have been working on it since 1935. Mr. Davies spoke to GB News and highlighted his support against the financial service company. He insisted there was an equally viable piece of land 2 miles away, a 1,200-acre site that could be developed instead. There's 1,200 acres of brownfield site. Outrage at Vale of Glamorgan, council ousting farmers. He said, "Why lose this beautiful farm which produces food for the local community when just down the road? 2.5 miles away you have got 1,200-acre site that could be developed into a business park. It has been developed over the years by Welsh Government which has now put it up for sale. It seems scandalous to kick a family off a working farm that is 3 generations in existence. Just as I said, just down the road, you have got a brownfield site of some 1,200 acres. It could easily be turned into the units that are proposed to be built on this particular site." Mr. Davies contacted UK Comment to give additional comments after appearing on GB News. He said, "This decision is disastrous for the people of Roose and Westbury, who had rightly raised concerns about the loss of agricultural land and the impacts on road congestion. There was just one vote in it, and permission was only granted after Labour and independent councillors voted in favour. I firmly believe there were sufficient planning grounds to reject the application. We live in a very different world to the one when the site was first included in the Valais Local Development Plan. When the plans were first brought forward, we were told the proposed M4 Junction 34 relief road would provide key transport infrastructure, but this will now not be built. The nearby St. Athan Enterprise Park has just been put up for sale. The pandemic has hit demand for commercial office space, and these factors should have been taken into account. One of the unexpected results of Brexit is how much more the UK talks about the EU than the reverse. In Britain, the EU is a daily source of news. Brexit-induced harms and the lack of benefits are sources of both comment and gallows humour. Commentators regularly discuss whether the UK will rejoin the EU. The right-wing press still portrays the EU as a bogeyman. Its every move is somehow revenge for Brexit or part of a grand scheme to bring Britain down. One reason is political. Boris Johnson still believes he can wring political capital out of the Brexit narrative. Plucky Britain sticking it to the EU superstate he so bravely freed us from. At the moment, this is most clearly seen in Johnson's refusal to implement the Northern Ireland Protocol, a key part of his 2019 withdrawal agreement. What ought to be a simple process of Johnson doing what he agreed to, and at the time celebrated as a great deal for Britain, is instead his latest excuse to keep Brexit in the headlines and his Vote Leave electoral coalition intact. That this stokes political instability and violence in Northern Ireland, endangering the Good Friday Agreement, is to Johnson of no consequence. If the protocol is resolved, Johnson will doubtless start a new fight with the EU, all the more as the next election approaches. If all else fails, there is the renegotiation of the Brexit deal, planned for 2024, a date apparently reached at Johnson's request. In a way, Britain's obsession with its relationship with Europe is all too predictable. Many warned that Johnson's bid for freedom would merely result in never-ending negotiations with the EU, much like Switzerland before us. Refusal to take part in the economic and political structures of the EU has consequences. The UK's choice to raise trade barriers with its largest trading partner makes once commonplace activities, like sending a parcel or selling services into the single market, expensive or impossible. Negotiating ways around the myriad problems created will take up government time until the day a wiser administration chooses to rejoin. Until then, the arguments, negotiations and search for workarounds will continue. For some in Europe, Brexit is past tense. The EU has moved on from Brexit and Europeans have moved on from Britain, wrote commentator Sonia de la Salle Stolper on the 5th anniversary of the Brexit vote. Britain was once seen as a place of dynamism, excitement and promise, but is now viewed as a strange neighbor who has decided to try a new kind of adventure, making everything more difficult and complicated. Many Europeans view the UK with sympathy, a result of the belief that we have made a mistake and will rue the consequences. Brexit has increased support for the EU in member states. In polls, majorities say that the UK made the wrong decision and would welcome us back should we apply to rejoin. Far from seeing Brexit as a courageous bid for freedom, most see Britain as isolated, divided, and on the wrong side of history. Politically, too, the EU has moved on. After the referendum, Brexit quickly disappeared from our collective imagining and political goal setting, says Erwin van der Putty, Foreign Affairs and Defence Advisor to the Belgian government. We in Europe are busy imagining and realizing our own future irrespective of whether the Brits are in or out, he says. There are in particular two challenges in shaping this future: socio-economic recovery post-COVID and a functioning asylum and migration policy. These are two areas where the Brits didn't participate anyway. It's on us on the continent to shape our future. In part, political lack of interest in Britain follows from a belief that there is only one dominant and permanently visible force in British politics: the Conservatives, and in particular Boris Johnson, says van der Putty. There doesn't seem to be a rivaling political force when you look at the daily news here. This adds to the feeling of otherness. Others suggest the EU is being patient with the UK, but that patience will not last forever. Johannes de Jong of the European Political Foundation, Salux, believes the EU will eventually enforce full compliance with the Northern Ireland Protocol. With Johnson, it will be endless grace periods, he says. The only way is to draw a line under it. The EU will give up on the UK. He believes the UK will eventually rejoin the EU, but that first there needs to be a generational shift. That generational shift is coming. Over 70% of under-25s voted Remain in 2016, and over 50% of under-50s. Most EU politicians would welcome the UK back, says De Jong. It was a bad outcome not just for the UK but also for the EU. The political class would love to see the UK come back. He says. They have sympathy for the British people, they know they were lied to. Many national politicians, particularly in Northern Europe, he says, believe the UK helped to keep the EU accountable, a job that has become more difficult without a British presence. There is a hope, he says, that Labour will do more to expose and oppose problems created by Brexit. At some point, Labour will have to connect the dots. There is however a belief that Britain's political crisis is deep and will not be easily resolved. The UK has always been seen as economically progressive, politically stable. With respect for the rule of law, a beacon of Western liberal democracy, said Rem Korteweg of the Klingendeel Institute think tank in the Netherlands. That's been seriously hit. Brexit is an exercise in emotion, not rationality. In choosing your own facts. And it's not clear how it will end. For Europe the worst-case scenario has been avoided, says Van der Putty. Brexit did not spark a wave of nationalism and Euroscepticism. There was no domino effect. The relief that followed gave a new sense of purpose to the EU, emboldening politicians who want the EU to succeed. I think it's taught us all just how vulnerable our political processes are, said Korteweg. Just 8 years ago, leaving the EU was a seriously fringe proposition in British politics, and now look where you are. So we've seen how fragile it all is, what we've built, and how worth defending. Some see reversing Brexit as part of that defense. Former Austrian MEP Joseph Weidenholzer, a former vice president of the Socialist and Democrats group in the European Parliament, argues that Brexit is merely one example of the right-wing populist and nationalist politics present elsewhere in Europe. Nationalism won't go away by closing your eyes, he says. Reversing Brexit is part of the anti-nationalism movement. Europe, he believes, is poorer without the UK. People aren't angry with the Brits, they believe you have a bad government. We need to find a solution. We can't abandon Britain, you are part of us.